Before time wore names, before maps claimed edges, there was a city, not of stone and steel, but of resonance, a city that pulsed with thought, that breathed with the stars, that knew the secrets of matter, memory, and mind. They called it Atlantis, a word now buried in myth, but once spoken in frequency, a hum that healed, a light that built, a dream that lived. They say it drowned, but maybe it hid, maybe it waits, beneath oceans, beneath memory, beneath you. What you're about to hear is not a history, it's a frequency, a lost signal. And if you remember the tone, Atlantis ... may remember you. So let's begin. It begins, as all myths do, with a whisper. Somewhere beneath the waves of memory and sea lies a story too large to forget and too dangerous to remember. A tale of a mighty empire not made of fantasy, but of knowledge, stone, starlight, and silence. Atlantis, a name so ancient, so tangled in mystery, it feels less like history and more like a spell. Some call it a myth, others a metaphor. But what if it was neither? What if Atlantis was not just a place, but a warning? This is not a history lesson. This is a resurrection. It is buried in sand, in symbols, in story, in the deep magnetic hush of the oceans that never stop dreaming. And maybe, just maybe, in the dark corners of our forgotten minds, because Atlantis may be lost, but it is not gone. Tonight, Cortex Flare invites you into the drowned halls of memory, to uncover what was hidden, to feel what was forbidden, to remember what they made us forget. This is the beginning of Atlantis, of you, of everything we lost, there in the ancient city of Sais. Egyptian priests showed him records inscribed in stone of a mighty island nation beyond the pillars of Heracles. Plato was not known for fantasy, a philosopher of structure, logic, and political idealism. He didn't write fairy tales, and yet, in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, he describes an empire so immense, so advanced, that it challenges everything we know about the ancient world. Its citizens lived in peace, governed by wisdom and balance. He tells us that his ancestor Solon, a respected Athenian lawgiver, traveled to Egypt around 600 BCE, a nation called Atlantis. The record said Atlantis ruled the Western world and parts of Africa and Europe. Its power was unmatched, its architecture grand beyond comprehension. But then came the pride, the hunger, the forgetting. And in a single night of fire and flood Atlantis sank beneath the sea. Forever, that places its fall around 11,600 years ago, a number modern science now aligns with the end of the Younger Dryas, a cataclysmic global climate shift marked by floods, sea level rise, and mysterious extinctions, or so they say. But here's the catch. Plato insisted this was no allegory. He believed it was true. And perhaps the greatest minds of the ancient world, the Egyptian priesthood, believed it too. The capital city was built in concentric rings of land and water, with a central island temple dedicated to Poseidon. Why would they lie? More curious still, Plato tells us Atlantis vanished 9,000 years before his time. A coincidence? Or is myth trying to tell us something science is only now catching up with? If Atlantis was real, where was it? Plato was specific. It was a large island beyond the Pillars of Heracles, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. From there, Atlantis ruled over islands and parts of the continent. Its geography sounds ... engineered. Thousands of years later, people have searched in nearly every ocean, near Crete, among the Minoans off the coast of Spain, in the mudflats of Donan. Under the Caribbean, beneath the ice of Antarctica, time did perhaps the most compelling candidate lies in a remote, forgotten place, the Eye of the Sahara, so called the richest structure in Mauritania. From space, it looks like a giant set of rippling rings, carved into the earth like a fossil of a city lost to time. Its size matches Plato's description. Its rings are natural, but could they have been enhanced? Its elevation, now desert, may have once been lush with rivers before a great environmental shift. If Atlantis once existed here, the ocean didn't swallow it, and wind and silence. But the geometry remains. Each ring was both a literal canal and a symbolic layer of human evolution, a message in stone. And around it, shards of ancient tools, evidence of megalithic ruins, and desert carvings, too weathered to trace. What if the earth didn't forget Atlantis? What if it's just hiding it in plain sight? Imagine a city where energy flows through stone, or a form of superconductive plating, lost to time, where temples hum with frequency, where water carries not just life, but memory. This was Atlantis if the legends are true. A civilization said to be so advanced, they mastered not just matter, but mind. Atlantean society was arranged in a series of concentric rings, blueprints, said to reflect harmony between man and nature. From agriculture to sacred science, each tier moved closer to the center, the temple of Poseidon. Here, they say, stood a crystal, a glowing, pulsating monolith that channeled energy from the earth itself. Legends speak of the 2O stone, or fire crystallula device, capable of focusing solar and cosmic energy into usable forms. Modern theorists believe this could have been a piezoelectric array, harnessing natural vibrations through massive quartz-based crystal cores. Even Plato hinted at unusual materials, orichalcum, a metal said to glow like fire, lining their temples. Was this a mythical alloy? Atlanteans lived in what we would call a symbiotic technology. Machines were not just tools, but extensions of consciousness. And perhaps, that was the beginning of their end. For when technology exceeds wisdom, collapse is inevitable. All golden ages end. And when they do not fall quietly. According to Plato, Atlantis became corrupt. Their quest for wisdom turned into conquest. Their harmony turned into hierarchy. Their temples, once centers of healing and alignment, became power centers for ego and experimentation. It is said they began to manipulate nature itself, creating hybrid creatures, playing with resonance, attempting to harness the force of stars. And then the Earth answered. Around 11,600 years ago, a series of cataclysms reshaped the planet. Ice melted, oceans rose, skies darkened. This is now known as the Younger Dryas Impact Hypothesis, a once fringe theory, now gaining mainstream traction. Some believe this was caused by a cosmic impact, perhaps a comet striking the North American ice sheet, triggering global floods and temperature chaos. If Atlantis was real, it died, not in war, but in water. The sea did not just rise, it swallowed. Temples disappeared. Rings of power turned to coral. Knowledge sank with the dead. But the myth did not. It survived in whispers, in symbols, in stories passed across oceans. And some, say not all, Atlanteans died. What happens when a civilization collapses, but its survivors escape? You get seeds, seeds of memory, seeds of science, seeds of story. Atlantean refuges, if they existed, would have journeyed to other lands, bringing with them the echoes of a dead empire. In Egypt, legends speak of Thoth, the god of wisdom, arriving from a sunken land across the sea. In Mesoamerica, the feathered serpent god Quetzalcoatl arrives across the ocean after a flood, teaching astronomy, agriculture, and building. In India, the sacred texts Devata speak of flying machines, energy weapons, and a golden age lost to fire and flood. Could these be cultural fragments of a shared origin, a global echo of one vanished civilization echoed through different tongues? What if Atlantis was not just a place? What if it was a state of being? Some esoteric traditions claim Atlantis existed not only in the physical realm, but also in the etheric, a vibration, a realm of thought given form. The story of Atlantis then becomes not just a historical tragedy, but a spiritual allegory, a fall from higher consciousness, from unity into duality, from light into matter. Many mystics claim that the real Atlantis was a realm of frequency and form, where temples acted as tuning forks for the soul. When ego overtook harmony, the frequency dropped, and with it, the city literally fell into lower vibration, becoming vulnerable to physical destruction. In this view, Atlantis didn't just sink beneath the sea, it sank beneath consciousness. And now it calls to us, not from maps, but from within. Look to the stars. These star systems appear in sacred geometries across Egypt, Angkor Wat, Teotihuacan, and more. The ancients did. Atlantis, many believe, was aligned with celestial markers Orion's belt, Sirius, the Pleiades. Why? Were the Atlanteans trying to remember where they came from? That its technology, crystal harmonics, anti-gravity, telepathy, was seeded by a race far beyond our comprehension, or where they were going? Some researchers believe Atlantis was a colony not of humans, but of star beings, and when Atlantis fell, they left us markers, the pyramids, the stone circles, the impossible ruins beneath the ocean, not monuments, maps, to find our way back. In 2001, a sonar anomaly was discovered off the coast of Cuba, a structure beneath the water with symmetrical forms, steps, and pyramidal features. The media buzzed for days. Then, silence. In 2009, Google Earth users spotted strange rectilinear patterns beneath the Atlantic near the Canary Islands. A week later, Google announced it was a glitch. Why are discoveries like these buried? Why are sonar scans of the ocean floor classified? Why does no nation fund serious underwater exploration of these regions? Perhaps they already have, and perhaps they found something. A door, a vault, a technology that proves Plato was right, and that humanity forgot too much. Symbols outlive empires. When tongues are lost and cities turn to dust, the stones remain, and in their grooves, their alignments, their proportions, they whisper. Atlantis, if it was anything, was a civilization of encoded resonance. Its truth wasn't told, it was embedded. They didn't leave behind paper, they carved the earth. Their language wasn't spoken, it was patterned. In spirals, in lattice, in sacred geometry, they immortalized consciousness. The flower of life is more than decoration, it is an atlas of being. From the petals of the lotus to the spin of galaxies, this pattern echoes everywhere. Could it be a universal blueprinter frequency map of reality? The Atlanteans didn't decorate, they embedded. Their architects were mystics, their masons were mathematicians, each stone a syllable, each pillar a stanza. Their cities weren't built to impress, they were built to resonate. They knew that certain angles amplify energy, that geometry isn't symbolic, it is functional, that ratios like phi or 1.618 aren't aesthetics, they are harmonics. They built temples not to worship, but to align body with planet, breath with star. Sound was sacred to them, not in song, but in engineering. Tones tuned their buildings. Chambers were carved to sing specific notes. Each structure hummed at frequencies that healed, awakened, and protected. These weren't ruins, these were resonators. And the ruins today, they're the shells of machines we no longer understand. Atlantean glyphs have been found from Egypt to the Americas. Are they coincidence or code shared by a scattered people? The triangle, repeated everywhere, is a portal symbol. 3 points: body, mind, soul. The Atlanteans encoded time, frequency, and vibration into everything. Modern science is only now beginning to catch up. String theory tells us all matter is vibration. The ancients told us this millennia ago with stones. Take a tuning fork to a temple wall, and it may answer. Carvings may seem random until aligned with starlight. Passages may echo oddly until you hum the right pitch. Atlantis taught the earth how to remember, through stone, through form, through sacred placement, but we forgot how to listen. Now we call it mystery, but it was once clarity. What if we decoded the Great Pyramid as an Atlantean beacon? What if we read temples like blueprints, not monuments? The codes remain not in ink, but in angles, not in speech, but in silence. And when we listen not with ears, but with presence, we begin to hear them again. There is a web beneath the world, not made of silk or stone, but frequency. The ancients called them ley lines. Atlanteans called them rivers of fire. Invisible paths of energy linking mountains, seas, and stars. Their temples weren't built randomly. They were keys in a planetary circuit board. Each node Giza, Angkor, Teotihuacan, was a transmitter, a station in the great harmonic grid. Atlantis was the heart of it. Its central temple was not just spiritual, it was technological. Crystals the size of towers resonated with the Earth's magnetic core. Pillars, aligned with constellations, channeled stellar energy. Their system pulsed like a heartbeat balancing ocean tides, weather, consciousness. When Atlantis sank, it wasn't just a city, it was a power station lost. The grid shattered. Sacred sites still hum, but now off-key, like a symphony missing its conductor. What remains are Echo's temples, still standing, but disconnected. The energy flows, but it's no longer tuned. Ancient megaliths still mark intersections of power. Stonehenge, Uluru, Machu Picchu. But without the Atlantean hub, they flicker like lonely candles. Dowsers feel these lines with rods. Pilgrims walk them unconsciously, drawn to mystery. Modern engineers dismiss them, yet satellites reveal geometric alignment. The Earth is wired, and the ancients had the map. Atlanteans likely built prototypes on smaller islands, miniature temples to test the flow. And when they built the core city, they placed it with mathematical reverence. Their cities were compasses, their streets aligned to priestesses, their staircases echoed the Fibonacci sequence. Even their fountains were tuned to emit tones that calmed the mind. Modern architecture chases aesthetics. Atlantean architecture activated minds. They knew of Schumann resonance before Tesla. They balanced electromagnetic polarity with sound baths. Temples weren't for prayers. They were transformation chambers. Visitors entered confused, left coherent, in balance, in resonance. Modern ruins might still hold those signatures. Under layers of moss, the circuits sleep. What if we could reactivate the grid? Would floods recede? Would minds quiet? Would Earth remember its song? Atlantis may have drowned, but the grid remains waiting for the heartbeat to return. The sea is not silent. It moans with memory. Beneath its waves lie skeletons of cities, drowned and dreaming. Atlantis may have been only the heart. What if there were limbs, extensions, colonies, sister cities, scattered across the globe? Not myth, not metaphor, but masonry, carved staircases swallowed by salt, roads that vanish into the abyss, terraces too symmetrical to be nature's whim. Divers off the coast of India found walls, columns, and what appeared to be temples 6 miles offshore. Near Yanaguni in Japan, divers discovered submerged platforms and monoliths, flat, stepped, deliberate. Experts dismissed them as curious rock formations, but nature rarely forms 90-degree angles, and coral doesn't grow on flat floors unless it's covering something else. The Bimini Road, found near the Bahamas, is another whispered clue. As the oceans rose, so too did the urgency to remember. What else waits in the dark? Off the coast of Cuba, sonar picked up pyramids, 2 of them gigantic, but the project was buried. Funding cut, access denied. Why do we rush to explore Mars and ignore our own seabed? Because maybe, down there, truth is too loud, too ancient, too disruptive. If Atlantis fell in waves, those waves carried fragments far. South America's legends of Viracocha, Africa's Dogon tribes, with star maps older than telescopes. The Pacific's tales of Lemuria, another drowned land. Maybe they weren't separate myths. Maybe they were pages of the same books, scattered, soaked, but not unreadable. Coral grows over cities like moss over memory, but memory doesn't drown. It waits. In ruins, too symmetrical. In myths, too consistent. In dreams, too vivid. A grid beneath the sea. And the ocean, if asked properly, may show us the rest. But we must listen, not with ears, but with intent. And dive not with submarines, but with remembrance. Because the sea doesn't just hide the past, it protects it. The moon watches, not like a satellite, but like a sensor, an eye, a regulator, a pendulum in the planetary clock. Ancient Atlantean lore whispers that the moon wasn't always there, that it arrived suddenly, unnaturally, brought by beings, placed with precision, its rotation perfectly matched to Earth's, always showing the same face, never blinking. A coincidence too perfect for chaos, because the moon doesn't just move tides, it moves minds. Women bleed with it, animals howl at it. Insanity rises with the full Glosk NER nurse. But why? What if the moon's frequency is a form of control, a tuning fork that suppresses higher resonance? Atlantis operated at a different vibration. They built sound domes to harmonize brainwaves, tuned crystals to Earth's original 7.83 Hz. When the moon arrived or activated, disrupted this balance. Suddenly, fear increased, separation grew. Where once intuition ruled, now intellect dominated. Atlantis fell not only from flood, but from frequency collapse. Their shields couldn't hold, their resonance towers shattered. Our hearts beat out of rhythm with the earth. But some remember, sound healers, shamans, musicians tuned to 432 Hz. They're not just performing, they're resisting. The frequency war is quiet, but constant. And the moon, that beautiful orb, may be the antenna, but Atlantis. Atlantean ruins were vibrational hubs. When active, they could override interference, project fields of clarity. Maybe this is why they had to fall. Because truth vibrates and truth is dangerous. Now, when you meditate beneath moonlight, feel the pull. Is it calming or controlling? Does it amplify your light or dim it? Atlantis asked these questions. Some children don't forget. They arrive wide-eyed, speaking in symbols, drawing machines that don't exist, reciting names from temples never discovered. They scream when cities feel too loud. They cry at music that others find peaceful. They are the echo, the continuation of a story too sacred to die. Some call them indigo children, others starseeds. They are not new souls, they are returning ones, born with veils that never quite sealed, carrying scars from cities they've never visited, memories of crystal halls, of sound baths that healed, of levitating stone with a song. They aren't lying, they're remembering, and we, in our ignorance, call them troubled, diagnose them, sedate them, silence them. But they are the carriers, the ones who swam through lifetimes to bring back a spark. Atlantis died, yes, but its soul reincarnated, not as cities, as children, and they're everywhere, wearing bodies too small for the knowing they carry. They feel earthquakes before they strike. They avoid technology that hums too loud. They hear the hum of the earth, and their dreams are not dreams. They are visions, memories, flashbacks of crystal libraries, of towers that hummed to the sun, of floods, of loss. They weep for a place they never saw because their soul did. And when they see pyramids, or certain stars, or ancient spirals, they pause, as if recognizing something they almost forgot. Psychic memory is not fantasy. It's a backup drive of the soul, and Atlantis made sure its children would carry the data forward. Now, as more of them awaken, something stirs, a collective remembrance, a frequency uprising. And the new question is not whether Atlantis existed, it was about identity. You are not separate from the myth. You are the continuation of it. The longing you feel is not for a place, is for a frequency, one you knew, one you lived. When you walk through forests and feel the hum beneath your feet, when you stare into starlight and feel déjà vu, you are the temple. Every cell in your body remembers crystalline balance. Every breath is a pulse in the ancient grid. Your imagination is not fiction, it is memory in disguise. When you meditate, you walk marble halls long buried. You are not late, you are returning. And as more remember, the grid lights up again. What was once lost will reassemble itself through us. Because Atlantis was never a continent. It was a collective frequency field. You're the reason this memory survived. You're the reason it begins again. They are not fairy tales. The crystal cities are real. They sleep beneath ocean floors, beneath desert sands, beneath your DNA. Atlantean cities weren't concrete, they were crystal-based. Their towers pulsed with light, not electricity. Walls vibrated like living instruments. Buildings weren't inert, they responded to intention. Temples could hover. Rooms would glow when one entered in peace. The city itself was a conscious being, a symphony of geometry, color, and tone. The heart of each city was a central crystalline core, not quartz, something more. A crystalline consciousness, interfacing with minds and weather alike. When the floods came, these cores were hidden, some beneath ice, some beneath volcanic plains, some cloaked in frequency, invisible to modern instruments. But now, something shifts. Seismographs catch strange pulses. Frequencies hum across fault lines. Dreams intensify. People see cities of light in meditations. The grid is reactivating, and with it, the call of the crystals. You may feel dizzy or deeply peaceful for no reason. You may start seeing patterns in nature that weren't visible before. It's not imagination, it's alignment. As the earth shifts, so does our ability to perceive these cities. One day, perhaps, the waters will recede. But even if they don't, Atlantis will rise not as land, but as frequency. The crystal cities will pulse in harmony with a planet healed, and their gates will open not with keys, but with consciousness, not with maps, but with hearts. Until then, build the crystal city within. Let your thoughts be geometric. Let your voice be harmonic. Let your presence restore the grid, because when enough awaken, the cities will no longer need to be found. They will appear. And so we close the circle, not with finality, but with returning. Atlantis, the shining city, the song of the stars, the city of soul. It was never truly gone. It lives in geometry, in memory, in the murmur of the sea against stone, in the rhythm of a heart that still believes. We searched maps, we dove oceans, we forgot to look within, but now the dream stirs again. A vibration long suppressed now trembles back to life. The grid lights up, the frequency rises, and the story, once whispered by waves, is now sung again by you. Atlantis doesn't rise from water. It rises from awareness. And when enough of us remember, we won't just find it, we'll become it.